What's new, crew, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Cassandra if you're new, and today I'm bringing you guys along for a 2-day freezer meal kind of prepping and cooking. So on the first day, I do all the prep work. You guys get to hang out with me, see how I roast my whole chickens. We're gonna cook all the proteins, getting everything ready for day 2, where I actually do the assembling of the meals. I'm gonna bring you guys through step by step all of the prepping, and then the assembling of the meals is just gonna be more fast forwarding. You guys get to watch me assembling them and getting them ready for the freezer. So you're gonna learn a lot of tips and tricks how I prep things for the freezer. You're also gonna learn how I went about making all of these freezer meals off of what I only had in my freezers and on my food storage shelf. I did not go to the store to buy any items for any of these meals. I only made meals for what I currently had to make them. A couple of days ago, I sat down and kind of went through my freezers, went through my pantry, to figure out what I had extra of to actually make these freezer meals, because I didn't want to have to go to the store and do a grocery shopping. If I didn't have to, I just want to utilize what I have. So what I came up with was chicken noodle soup, teriyaki chicken, venison and broccoli bake, venison stew, smothered pork chops, Swedish meatballs, and then I have some casseroles here. So pizza casserole, tater tot casserole, pot pies, and mini meatloaf. I went to the store and picked up 6 little meatloaf tins. Whatever I don't use, I'll just save and use for either sweetbreads or whatever. I'll use those eventually. And I also picked up 6 of these 9x9 sized casserole dishes. That way I also won't even have to clean up when I do these. The other meals that I listed, I'm going to be making in Ziploc bags. They're going to be more crock pot dump and goes, or the meatballs I'm going to put in a Ziploc bag and just dump onto a sheet tray and bake that. This is what we're going to be doing in terms of prepping today. I'm going to roast 2 of these whole chickens in my 18-quart Nesco. I bought this Nesco when it was on sale after the holidays. I paid $20 for this Nesco, and originally it was around the $50 mark. So shop the sales and wait for sales, especially when you're buying equipment like this. I never pay full price. I love it very much. It's an aroma brand. I've used it a couple times. It's amazing. I highly recommend. I wish I would have bought 2. The other thing we're going to be cooking today is this thing of ground beef. I actually have about a pound of ground beef that I cooked last night for dinner. It was extra, and it's in my fridge right now. So I'm going to use that 1 pound of ground beef that I already have cooked up, plus this is a 2-pound block. I'm going to be cooking this in my crock pot today. So very hands off. This is what we're doing today. I'm going to shred this chicken today while it's hot. Get it in a Tupperware, a Ziploc bag or something. Put it in my fridge. That way it's ready to go for tomorrow. All I have to do is dump it in the meals that I'm actually making. I'm also going to use some of this chicken tonight. I'm going to make a chicken noodle soup or chicken rice soup or something like that for dinner tonight, because I'm not going to need all of this chicken, and then that way I'm also cooking dinner for tonight. I don't have to worry about it, and it'll be a big enough batch of soup where we can also eat it tomorrow night, because I'm going to be cooking all day tomorrow, and then I don't have to worry about dinner tonight or tomorrow. So there's that. We are thawing out a big hunk of venison. I'm going to thaw this out, cut it into tips, and we're going to use this for the venison beef stew and the venison and broccoli. Venison and broccoli is essentially beef and broccoli, but I'm going to use venison instead. This is 4 pounds of ground beef total. I'm going to leave this raw because I need to mix these tomorrow for the meatballs and the meatloaf. And then the cooked meat that I'm cooking will be about 3 pounds total. That'll be for the different casseroles that we're doing. So that's why that is thing of pepperoni I pulled out of the freezer for the pepperoni bake, and I pulled out a thing of pork loin chops for the smothered pork chops, and that's all the meat total we're going to be using for hopefully right around 16 meals. This is going to be it. So here we go. Let's get things going. I'm going to start with the chickens in the Nesco and getting this meat in my crock pot. This first chicken I have right here, I got at 99 cents a pound. It's 5.8 pounds. I paid $5.77 for this whole chicken. And then for this one right here, I got it for 97 cents a pound. It's a little bit bigger. It's 6.2 pounds. I got it for $6.03. And then I'm also gonna use the bones off of these chickens to make some chicken broth. And I'm gonna freeze the chicken broth. So really, I'm getting a ton of use out of these chickens. I love using whole chickens very much. They're one of my favorite things to buy. I always keep them in my freezer. They're so versatile, and you get so much product off of these. I can feed my family off of a whole chicken for probably a week. I keep the seasonings on my chickens so simple because it doesn't have to be overcomplicated. I like basil, I love bay leaves, seasoned salt, pepper, and then just some butter. So what I'm gonna do is take the butter, put that all over the top of the chickens here, and then just add my spices on top. And I'm just gonna put this right on the Nesco. I'm gonna put it on probably like 250, 350. I'm gonna let this go as long as it needs until it's done. My chickens are frozen, so it's gonna take probably most of the day. And then we're just gonna shred it up and get ready to make the base of our soup for tonight. And this prep for the chicken is gonna be just about done after that. The butter adds a fat content to the chicken, which helps it from getting dry. If you're wondering why we're adding butter, it also is just, you know, makes it taste super yummy. You can totally skip this step if you wanted, but I recommend. Now I'm gonna take my spices and just give it a generous coating. Sometimes I'll also add some soup base and add that to the top of my chicken to give it some flavor. You totally can do that. I might still do that, but I have no actual measurements for you here. It's just what looks good. Now my bay leaf, I actually only have one left. I need to get more. This adds so much flavor. I just drop these into the bottom, into the water and the vegetables and stuff that are in here. I forgot to say that. I did add about 6 cups of water to the bottom of this Nesco. It's just gonna help make some broth, and I'm gonna use that for the broth for my chicken. This is the soup base I used for a really long time. They also make chicken and vegetable broth. It's amazing, but recently I've been buying this soup base, this is chicken base, from a local Amish store by me, and I will never go back. It's the best thing I've ever used, and it's actually cheaper than this brand. I still really like this brand, but this is where it's at. Now I just have my regular old crock pot here. I've got my 1 pound, or my 1 package, but 2 pounds of ground beef. I'm just gonna throw this in, season it with some seasoned salt, some pepper, onion powder, a little bit of garlic powder, and I'm gonna let this go. This does not take long at all. Usually takes about 3 hours or so if you cook it on high. I use my crock pot to cook ground beef for me all the time. It's glorious. I love it very much. So I'm just gonna add my seasonings on top here, turn it on high, let it go, and periodically as it starts to thaw out, I'll take a spatula or whatever and kind of break it apart, mash it up, help it along. But really that's all that has to go into this, which is really nice. So when we're talking about whole poultry, you want it to sit at that 165 mark. If you don't have a meat thermometer, I would highly suggest getting one. I use this thing so much, but I just checked them. I'm sitting right at like 180, so these are actually ready to go. So what I'm going to do is I'm gonna physically check them myself first, just to make sure. I'm gonna peel a piece off, taste it, because that's what we do. Once I confirm that these chickens are fully cooked, I'm gonna turn my Nesco completely off, and I'm gonna let these cool a little bit, just so when I'm shredding them, I'm not shredding them and like burning my hands. I think I'm gonna do my best to shred the chickens in the actual Nesco itself, and then if I need to, I'll pull it out onto the cutting board, but I think I'm just gonna pull apart what I can and plop it into the bowl, and I don't know. It's been a while since I've shredded a chicken like this. This is the one that's waiting for scraps. It's too hot, baby. It's too hot. No, you cannot lick my fingers. It's too hot.
Cause I've been living life right like I could just die any minute. Going for a ride down the side, PCH, country limit. I don't need a guide, follow lights, take me where I wanna visit. Are you alive? Or just breathing? Cause I've been living life right like I could just die any minute. Going for a ride down the side, PCH, country limit. I don't need a guide, follow lights, take me where I wanna visit. Are you alive? Or just breathing? Flashing red lights, driving at night, windowless ride, feeling alive. Nothing in sight, forever in flight. Follow those lines, will make it.
My carcass gets down to looking like something like this. That's when I call it good. I'm just gonna throw this in with the rest of my scraps, and this is gonna be chicken broth. Chicken is all shredded. Here it is. I got right around 3 quarts, which makes me really happy. That'll definitely be enough for soup tonight. I'm gonna do a freezer soup, so essentially I'm just making the same soup twice. And then I wanna do a chicken pot pie. So I'll have plenty for that. I might even be able to stretch this for 2 pot pies. We'll see what happens. And then this is for my chicken stock. So I'm just gonna put the lid on this one, just like this one here, and plop these in the fridge, and they will be ready for me tomorrow. And that's kind of the end of the prep that I have to do today to make tomorrow go so much smoother. My ground beef finished off about an hour ago. I just turned my crock pot off and it's been sitting for about an hour. Now it's ready for me to throw in a Ziploc bag and throw in the fridge. So this is perfectly ready for me tomorrow. It's cooked and then I just have to throw it in my freezer meals. Also, my mother-in-law, she made too many lasagnas and she dropped some off with some of the kids and she asked if I needed a lasagna, so here we go. I'm just gonna package this up. I'm actually just gonna tin foil it a couple times, label it, and throw this in my freezer with all my other freezer meals. So now I have an extra freezer meal that I didn't actually have to cook or prepare. Packaged up my ground beef for tomorrow, so I'm just gonna put this bag in the fridge right with all the other meat that I'm thawing. All the meat that you saw that I had this morning, so like the pork chops, the extra thing of ground beef, what else did I have? The pepperonis and the venison. I just put that in my fridge and I'm just gonna let that thaw in my fridge until tomorrow morning. I have this giant 500-foot thing of aluminum foil I bought from Sam's Club. This was one of the best purchases. I bought this almost a year ago in May. And I still have so much left on here. It was expensive, it was $30, but well worth it just to have it and not have to worry about it. If you wrap these really well, these can last really 6 months in your freezer with no freezer burn. So just give it a couple layers of either plastic wrap and then tin foil or just tin foil. Make sure you label it. I have to find a Sharpie here or something to label this with. So I just labeled it lasagna and then wrote the date on it. This is ready to go in my chest freezer downstairs. I emptied out an entire chest freezer in my basement. We have 3 of them. If you want to see some freezer tours, I'll link a couple videos down below, but I moved everything out of one of my freezers to make room where I can just have a full freezer full of freezer meals, so they're super easy to find and they're easy to store. So heading into day 2, I had all of these great glorious plans to go ahead and make a bunch of dump and go crock pot meals on this day. Well, guess what? It didn't happen. I didn't make any of the pot pies that I roasted all of the chicken for. So what I actually ended up doing was taking all of that chicken. I made another meal out of it. We made chicken quesadillas for dinner that night, and then all the other chicken went into a Ziploc freezer bag. And it's in here. It's in my freezer. I didn't have time to go ahead and make those freezer meals because very unexpectedly my sister-in-law ended up having her baby, and when that happens, our family basically shuts down and we are all hands on deck, and we want to see the baby, we want to meet the baby, we want to help with the baby. So that's what we did. I shut the freezer cooking down, and I got done what I could get done. So chicken went in the freezer, but I still assemble some meals. So let me go ahead and show you guys how I prepped a couple meatloaves. We end up doing Swedish meatballs. We also end up making 3 casseroles, which I'm very happy to have all those in the freezers. Heading into a little bit of a busier time, they'll be very helpful to have in the freezers. I'll be happy that I have them. I just didn't get to do the pot pies, the venison and broccoli bakes, or the pork chops, which is all okay. Any prepping that I can get done, I'm going to take, and it'll still save me a ton of time that I cooked those chickens and have them shredded, and they're just ready to go in my freezer for when I want to make a pot pie or a soup or something like that. All I have to do is dump that chicken into the pot, and it's going to be good to go. So I'm still super happy that I got that done, but let's hop into the rest of day 2 where we actually assemble and get these meals in the freezer.
Swear I won't forget this, why do I regret this? In my mind reckless, thoughts are feeling endless. Sitting up, I'm breathless, anxiety's infectious. I feel so defenseless, betrayed and embarrassed. I hate being open, I hate being broken. I feel like an ocean filled up with emotion. Anger ain't a potion, rub it on like lotion. I can feel it soaking, reopen, the scars have awoken. I can't move on till I let go. I feel so lost, never at home. Need to be strong, every breath hold. Cause I can't move on till I let go. I can't move on till I let go. I feel so lost, never at home. Need to be strong, every breath hold. Cause I can't move on till I let go. The pain makes it real. I don't wanna feel, I just wanna kill the bad thoughts on till I let go. I feel so lost, never at home. Need to be strong, every breath hold. Cause I can't move on till I let go.
I'm getting ready to start making my meatloaves. I'm hoping to get 2 or 3 out of this. We'll see what happens. This is 2 pounds of beef. I like to grate in veggies in my meatloaf. I just use a cheese grater. I can't get away with anything anymore. As my kids get older, they'll pick out everything. My kids are really good with vegetables, but there are some things like onions, if I were to chop them up, they will pick around them, they'll refuse to eat it. So if I shred it, it's still in there, it makes it taste good, all the things, but they don't know it's there. And then I started doing the same thing with celery, bell peppers, carrots. I don't have any carrots right now, so we're just gonna do the celery, bell pepper, and onion. I also made sure I started saving my bread ends for the meatloaf, so I use bread ends mostly to make my meatloaves because it's just the best way to use the butts of the bread.
Seen a lot of change, been through a lot of pain. Some things are not the same as they were a year ago, but all will be okay. I move on each and every day. The past is where it stays, way back a year ago. I've changed for the better this time. I thought I would never be fine. I strive just to say I'm alright. And for the first time in a long time, I'm alright. I've seen a lot of change, been through a lot of pain. Some things are not the same as they were a year ago, but all will be okay.
Now I'm going to move on to a Swedish meatball recipe. I'm going to be making it in one of these tins. I know I said in my prep video I was actually not going to do this, but I have extra tins, so I'm going to do it this way. How this happens is I will link the original recipe down below. I found it off Pinterest. It's very quickly become a favorite. It has this really great cream sauce that goes on top, and that's what makes it. It's heavy cream and beef stock. It's super simple to make, but this recipe is just a little bit of garlic, a little bit of seasoned salt. Check the original recipe because I change things and always kind of do my own thing. Pepper, and I put in a little bit of cinnamon. The original recipe calls for nutmeg, but I never have nutmeg. I just throw in a little bit of cinnamon and it works just the same. It's so good. And then the last thing is actually a splash of milk and some breadcrumbs, Italian style breadcrumbs. I don't have regular breadcrumbs. This is how I've made it every single time, and it makes no difference to the actual like flavor of the meatball. I think the cinnamon kind of drowns it out, but what this recipe wants you to do is make a paste with the breadcrumbs and the milk and then dump it into the meat.
The past is where it stays, way back a year ago. I'm not falling, I'll push all my chips and call all in. I'll bet on myself, you keep stalling. I hear destiny and it's calling.
I got 16 meatballs out of this, and you might not think that's a lot, but these are big meatballs and they are so filling, especially when you pair them with mashed potatoes, maybe some homemade bread.
Mom,
you like to eat it with bread?
Yeah.
Yeah, we like to eat it with bread. It's so bread, yeah. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me, taking time out of your day to watch my videos. It's the coolest thing. I hope that this video gave you guys some tips and tricks on how I made all of these meals for literally no money, just of what I already have on hand. And there's a lot of variety here as well, which I think is super important. And now I've got a ton of convenience meals chilling in my freezer that are homemade. I know what's in them, all of those things, and I don't have to worry about any of the mess or any of the cooking. I'll link down below a couple of videos that I think you guys might be interested in. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. Of course, I will see you guys in another video. Bye.
I've seen a lot of change, been through a lot of pain. Some things are not the same as they were a year ago, but all will be okay. I move on each and every day. The past is where it stays, way back a year ago.